offsetting some of their still combustion engines that they're selling thick and fast. But this is a company that's still managing to rally after hours, as we see that Tesla's on track to start production from Berlin factory in 2021.
Yeah, listen, I think there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to Tesla specifically. You are listening to Tesla earnings on Bloomberg Radio, Bloomberg TV, and YouTube. You know, keep in mind the president has also talked about EV credits, once again, EV rebates specifically, which could give a boost to Tesla going forward. And I mean, I think what we need to find out is, especially certainly when we get into the earnings call, you know, they're boosting production when it comes to Austin, Texas specifically, but we want to know kind of about the outlook and whether or not they are continuing to maintain some share, because they have been losing a little bit of market share in the United States, Romain.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the production numbers right now, we kind of knew this: 180,338 to be precise deliveries, 184,800. Of course, they give those monthly updates, so we sort of knew that. I guess you're going to extrapolate from the headline about the potential growth, 50% annual growth in vehicle deliveries, where that sort of gets you here on a full year basis. That would still put you roughly in line with what the street was expecting, even a little short if my math is correct here.
And of course, we always want to focus on fundamentals, but this is a company that is investing some of their cash in Bitcoin, and indeed they comment on it. They see that we do have some positive year-over-year impacts from the sale of Bitcoin, and that was a reason why some of their quarter-end cash and cash equivalents decreased to about $17 billion, mainly because they had a net cash outflow, all due to cryptocurrency purchases, Caroline.
And of course, many saying that the rebound that we saw in Bitcoin since the weekend was in large part because Elon Musk tweeted. Once again, of course he does that, but he said, what does the future hodl? Which of a hodl being that technical term that the crypto markets like in terms of holding your crypto. But he was sort of signifying, of course, the ongoing interest he and perhaps his company have in cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, absolutely. Stock little change here in the after hours, but certainly we'll continue to follow on that earnings call. All right, that's going to do it for our cross-platform coverage here on Bloomberg Radio, Bloomberg TV, and on YouTube. Catch us again, same place, same time tomorrow.
Meanwhile, more markets coverage coming up. We are diving, of course, yet further into the Tesla numbers. Stick with us. This is Bloomberg.
It's really a reminder, isn't it, just how sensitive the markets are to any commentary about trade. We did see some pressure on the yuan, we did see some pressure on futures. That is now being reversed.
Just the album.
All right, those Tesla numbers are out. The headline number, 1Q adjusted EPS coming in at 93 cents. That beats the revenue coming in at 10.39 billion. That's pretty much in line. The street was looking for 10.41 billion here. Interesting notes here about deliveries here. Pretty much came in for the quarter as to what the street was expecting based on those monthly delivery numbers that we had, to about 185,000. It's not quite clear exactly what the full year outlook is going to be. The company's saying that it can achieve 50% annual growth in vehicle deliveries, though it doesn't actually say if that's going to be this year. If that is this year, that would be over 1 million cars delivered this year, which would be above what the street was looking for, Taylor. But it's still not quite clear as to whether that is for this year, Carol.
Yeah, meanwhile, let's dig into this with Lee Drogan, of course, guys, founder and CEO of Estimize, going to be giving us the focus of an open financial estimate platform designed to collect fundamental estimates from independent analysts. So, Lee, given the options, we're pricing that we could see a swing in the shares of 7% either direction. In fact, we're down by 1.25%, says the market's digesting this without too much volatility. But what do you make of the numbers?
Look, short term, I think that deliveries number is interesting. Obviously, we've known the number for this quarter, for about a month now. But the forecast is interesting in that on the Estimize platform, we're looking for about 935,000 cars delivered this year. And that forecast would put that above where the consensus is from the buy side. So, in the short term, it looks like Tesla is delivering on its promise to ramp up production. In the long term, look, the competition from Volkswagen and GM and all of the rest of them are going to eat into that market share. So, are they going to be able to live up to the valuation that they've got here on the basis of just delivering cars alone? Probably not.
Lee, it's interesting. We're hearing more and more about some of those EV tax credits. We're looking through the numbers now, and for the quarter, it was $518 million. That is up from $400 million in the previous quarter. And there's been just maybe some longer-term questions about how you're profitable without some of those tax credits. Is that a concern for you at this point?
Again, I think short term, there is some concern around that. You look what's happening in some of the state capitals here in Montana. They're trying to pass a law that, basically taxes EVs at $400 a year. And that's trying to make up for the fact that they're taxing gasoline. But that would be a heavier tax on EVs than it would be on gasoline. Gasoline would roughly come out to about $125 a year for the average driver. So, federal versus state, regulations here, it could definitely play in short term. I mean, long term, is it going to really hamper the move to EVs broadly? No. But, you could see that cut into their profitability short term here.
One thing, Lee, that everyone has been looking for with regards to all the automakers, particularly GM, Ford, and including Tesla, is how they might have been affected by the chip shortage. The only real mention that they make of it in their presentation is it basically says that they were able to, quote, navigate through global chip supply shortage issues in part by pivoting extremely quickly to new microcontrollers. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but according to them, at least it sounds like this isn't a big issue for them.
Well, I mean, look, their deliveries number beat the consensus here by the widest margin that we've seen in their history, basically since they've been public. So obviously they were able to pivot there well. I don't think you're going to get too much depth on that from them. They're kind of making it up as they go along anyway. And, some quarters they disappoint on that number because they don't execute. And some quarters, like this quarter, they blew it out of the water. So, I don't think you're going to get too much depth on why that happened from the team over there.
Do you care about net cash outflows on Bitcoin or what Bitcoin does to its cash and how it has basically exposure to what cryptocurrencies are up to?
Look, from a fundamental perspective, I don't think this matters to the company. But I really do think it matters to the story of the company, and that is what is driving the valuation of Tesla at this point. Listen to what Musk is doing on Twitter, in the media at large. Not the micro aspects of it, but the macro aspects. He understands better than anybody else what's driving the valuation of this company, and that's just a piece of it. And it continues to keep people involved in that story. Look, Lyft just sold its driverless unit for $500 million. Uber sold off its driverless unit. Musk is definitely in over his skis on promising FSD. There's going to be some kind of lawsuit there, eventually. He's way over his skis when it comes to kind of the promise of this thing long term. So he has to keep those investors involved in the story. And honestly, Bitcoin is a great story here from a fundamental perspective on its own. But does it really impact the fundamentals of this company? No, absolutely not.
Lee, what does impact the fundamentals and what they're touting as a good thing is the average selling price per vehicle has fallen from $84,000 in 2017 to sub $38,000 this quarter. They're saying that a lower cost of a car is key to their mission when it comes to making inroads in volume and market share, but they're highlighting they're cutting costs faster, and so they're excited about the expansion of the gross margins. How are you thinking about an average selling price at $38,000?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty bullish on their ability to contain costs internally and raise the margin. Look, they were building cars out of a tent, and now they've got some really serious factories up and running here, and there's going to be a couple more online this year, and that should definitely add to their ability to be a profitable car company. When we look at the competition, though, obviously the cost of EVs across the board are going to have to come down, and they definitely will, as especially this administration pushes over the next couple of years to really, get in place the momentum for a broad shift.
Roman, I'm just going to jump in here. We're talking about the average selling price, and we're also talking about the average cost per vehicle. Those were the numbers I cited, Romain.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so an interesting breakdown here for Tesla. It'll be interesting. This is obviously for a stock like Tesla, a volatile stock like Tesla. This, of course, is a tremendous downdraft here, down about 1.5% here in after hours trading. Lee, well, I guess we're going to catch up with you shortly. Are you going to watch SNL, by the way?
I'll absolutely watch SNL again for just the entertainment value of Musk. He's always entertaining, if nothing else.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just disappointed Grimes wasn't the musical guest.
Yeah.
That seemed like unnatural, but I guess what do I know? I'm not a television producer.
She's into NFTs now, Romain. She's into NFTs.
All right, Lee, we'll catch up with you soon. Always love getting Lee's perspective here on days like this. Lee Drogan, founder and CEO of Estimize, which of course tracks a lot of the buy-side sentiment out there on the street. All right, let's pivot now to the Bloomberg First Word News and Mark Crumpton. Mark?
Romain, thank you. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced today that the Justice Department is opening an investigation into the Louisville Police Department, which has faced scrutiny since the fatal shooting of a black woman, Breonna Taylor, in her home last year.
Congress has authorized the department to conduct pattern or practice investigations to help it fulfill that responsibility. Those investigations and the recommendations and actions that ensue do not only protect individual civil rights, they also assist police departments in developing measures to increase transparency and accountability.
Attorney General Garland announced last week that the Justice Department had opened an investigation into policing practices in Minneapolis in the aftermath of George Floyd's killing and the conviction last week of former officer Derek Chauvin on murder and manslaughter charges in connection with Mr. Floyd's death. Texas will gain the most new seats in the U.S. House of Representatives under new census numbers released today. States in the Northeast and Midwest will lose 7 seats. The U.S. Census Bureau released its once every 10-year count of state populations, reshuffling the 435 House seats among the 50 states to account for population changes over the last decade. The Census Bureau says U.S. population rose to 331 million, an increase of 7.4% since 2010, but the second slowest growth decade in American history. The United States says it will send 60 million doses of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine abroad. Astra has not sought Food and Drug Administration authorization for its vaccine, but has already manufactured millions of doses in the U.S. under a federal contract. And President Biden spoke with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi today and pledged his full support to the country, which is combating the world's largest surge of COVID infections. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is fighting to get his government back on track. He's dealing with claims about his conduct during the pandemic and battles over lobbying and cronyism. According to the Daily Mail, Prime Minister Johnson said last year he would rather see bodies pile high in their thousands than order a third lockdown. Both Prime Minister Johnson and his spokesman denied that he made the comment. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Mark Crumpton. This is Bloomberg.
14 minutes. Smash that like button. Smash the like button, subscribe, hit the bell, get notified, and comment, share. 14 minutes.
I have an idea for a trade. I ain't gonna place